Welcome to In the Kitchen with Galavante. I'm Christine Dryden, the founder of Galavante, and today you're in my kitchen here in New York City. We are going to be making one of my favorite recipes, which is Chateaubriand, and it's inspired by travels to France. What is so amazing about this recipe, though, is that it is not at all complex, but yet it makes you look like a superhero. And it's also one of those recipes that you can make while your guests are in your house and you're enjoying your wine and you're having your various courses, and it looks like it's completely effortless, but the return on investment on the Chateaubriand is extremely high. Everyone has loved it. And for those who like their meat at different temperatures, whether you like it well done, medium, or medium well, this is also like you're a restaurant. You can do this just with this one piece of meat. Chateaubriand is the best part of your beef tenderloin, which means that it's even better than just a regular filet mignon. And why it's going to be so good with our recipe is because I like to marinate this overnight. And what I do is I use a sous vide bag. And if you've not done sous vide before, we'll do a whole nother segment on sous vide. But I use this and I vacuum seal all the flavor in. And I also have salt and I have herbs and I have olive oil, which makes the meat so tender that by the time you're ready to roast it the next day, the meat is almost impossible to mess up. And so the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to take some salt and I'm going to really salt the beef tenderloin to the point where you're not going to need to add any salt at all when you cook this, and then your guests are not even going to ask for salt. Even those guests who totally kill all their food with salt, no one is going to ask for more salt. Your beef is going to be beautifully seasoned. And then what I also like to do is I also like to get some fresh pepper. I don't always season it with pepper, but I think that beef tenderloin is one of those dishes that really needs pepper. And then once your beef is seasoned, this is when you're going to start to add the herbs, but you're going to add it all in this bag. We're going to add some thyme. Really, I use whatever herbs are around. Sometimes I use sage, sometimes I use rosemary. Then you're just going to pour some olive oil into the bag. And so now you have this perfect bag of seasoning, and we're going to marinate this overnight, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to vacuum seal all of the flavor into the beef. And I'm going to do this with a vacuum sealer that's going to suck all the air out. As you can see, it sucked all the air out and vacuum sealed the bag, and I'm going to throw this in overnight, or at least for a few hours, and all of the flavors and the herbs are going to be completely sealed into the beef tenderloin, which is going to make your beef not only super flavorful, but also very tender. Our beef tenderloin is ready to be seared. Before you roast, the first thing we need to do is we need to sear the beef so all of this moisture that we worked so hard to keep stays within the beef and it's super, super juicy. I have on my stove a skillet that's being heated at high. And it's been on for about a minute or two now. I put a little bit of olive oil on it, and we're going to place the beef directly on here. We're going to sear every part of the beef for about 3 minutes each side, to the point where your smoke alarm is almost going to go on. In fact, if your smoke alarm does go on, it means that you're searing the beef properly. But this step is what's going to ensure that your Chateaubriand is super, super tender and super juicy. So after about 8 or 9 minutes, all of your beef is beautifully seared. Look at this amazing brown. And all you need to do is pop it in the oven. My suggestion is, because if you're doing your searing properly, your fire alarm is probably going off, and no one wants that when guests are over. So sear your beef before they come, and then when it's time to pop it in the oven, pop it in about 20 minutes before you're going to serve the main course. And pop it in at 450 degrees, and like I said, at 12 minutes you have medium rare, 15 to 18 you have medium, and about 22 minutes you have well done. So everyone can get their Chateaubriand perfectly cooked to their taste. Now is the moment of truth. After 12 minutes of cooking the beef tenderloin, I am going to have the perfect medium rare. If you want your beef a little bit more cooked, of course, increase the cooking time. But if you want it well done, what I would do is I would not cook this as a whole roast. I would actually just cut a piece just like this and then roast the beef tenderloin. And voila, guys, you have Chateaubriand. What I love so much about this recipe is that you make this while your guests are having the course right before it, and you're enjoying your wine and eating along with them, but this is literally just roasting in the oven, and you take it out, you slice it up, you plate it. I like to serve it with potatoes, with pomme puree, though the traditional way to serve Chateaubriand is with what they call Chateau potatoes. And these potatoes are peeled super tiny and they're roasted, but they're way too much effort, and I like to make my meals super easy than just making a nice pomme puree and serving it alongside some cream spinach. Your guests, I guarantee, are going to love this, and this could not be easier, which is what I also love about the recipes that we do here on In the Kitchen with Galavante. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of In the Kitchen with Galavante, and we'll see you again with another recipe inspired by our travels around the world.